Okay, so the afterlife. Big topic, right?
Yeah.
What if everything we think we know about it is like totally wrong? What if it's not all, harps and clouds?
Right.
But something much weirder,
Oh.
like way weirder. That's what we're diving into today with David Eagleman's Sum, 40 Tales from the Afterlives.
I like that book.
This book, oh man, it's a trip, let me tell you. Eagleman, he imagines 40 different afterlives.
Wow.
Each one more mind-blowing than the last.
Yeah. And the really interesting thing is Eagleman, he's not just some guy with a wild imagination.
Right.
He's a neuroscientist. So he brings this really, really unique perspective. It's like he's blending like science and fiction to explore these really profound questions about life and death and what comes next.
Exactly. So we're gonna jump into a few of these afterlives with you.
Okay.
And trust me, you are gonna want to hear this.
Okay.
Okay, first up, imagine a heaven that's run like the DMV, but for eternity.
Oh, wow. This is from the story Reigns, where God, bless his heart, is basically this middle manager.
Right.
Who's totally lost control of the afterlife.
Oh, no, too.
To these, like, power-hungry angels.
And these angels, they've created this insanely bureaucratic system.
Yeah.
You've got endless lines, committees for everything.
Right.
Paperwork out the wazoo.
It's awful.
Eagleman writes, as you wait in line and strike up a conversation with the woman behind you, you discover that the afterlife was long ago given over to committees. Can you imagine? I mean, we've all been stuck in line at the DMV, right?
Yeah.
But for eternity.
It's brilliant. It takes this thing we consider like sacred and divine, the afterlife, and it injects it with this like hilariously mundane reality. But beyond the humor, I think it makes you think about the nature of power and control.
Yeah.
We often associate those things with God. But what happens when they fall into the wrong hands? What happens when efficiency trumps compassion?
Right. It's like those times you get stuck on hold with like customer service for hours.
Oh, yes.
And you just want to scream, can I please talk to a human being? But in this afterlife, there's no escaping the system.
And that feeling of being trapped, of losing agency. It's something I think a lot of people can relate to, even in this life.
Totally.
We crave control. But what happens when that desire for control backfires?
Speaking of control, get this, in Great Expectations, Eagleman, he takes us to an afterlife where you get exactly what you think you want.
Okay.
Think custom-designed virtual reality, fast cars, endless parties, you name it.
That sounds pretty good.
Right,
Yeah,
sounds pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Except there's a catch.
Uh-oh.
Turns out, God does exist.
Oh.
And he's created this other, more traditional version of heaven. Think harps and halos. And here's the kicker. The people who opted for the virtual reality afterlife, they're stuck there, forever chasing, fleeting pleasures. And the folks who lived more simple, faithful lives, they got into God's heaven by default.
Wow.
Talk about irony.
That's something else.
It reminds me of that saying, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it.
Oh, yeah.
Eagleman, he writes about this. He says, the problem is that this isn't what you wanted. You've just paid good money for an afterlife of fast cars and charisma and drinking and lovemaking.
It's so true.
I mean, who hasn't gotten so caught up in chasing something that they lose sight of what truly matters?
Absolutely. It makes you question the very nature of desire and fulfillment.
Right.
We think we know what will make us happy, but what if true happiness lies in something unexpected, something beyond our control?
Okay, this next afterlife is really going to blow your mind. What if everything gets an afterlife?
Everything.
Yeah, not just people.
Yeah.
In Ineffable, Eagleman explores this idea that even things like organizations, concepts, relationships, like they all have some kind of essence that continues on.
It's like, imagine a play. The actors, they move on to other roles, other productions. But the play itself, the story, the characters, they exist independently in a way.
It's like Eagleman says, platoons and plays and stores and congresses do not end. They simply move on to a different dimension. It makes you think about the things we build in this life.
Yeah.
The companies, the governments, the movements. Do they take on a life of their own even after we're gone?
And what about like the relationships we form, the connections we make? Do those leave a trace like in the fabric of existence even after the individuals involved are no longer around?
It's like, what if our social media profiles could somehow live on
Oh, wow.
in some like digital afterlife, even after we've like logged off for good. It's kind of creepy, but also kind of cool when you think about it.
It certainly challenges our traditional notions of individuality and legacy.
Speaking of challenging notions, get ready for this one. Have you ever wished you could rewind your life? Like a movie.
Yeah.
Well, in Reversal, Eagleman flips the script on time itself. Imagine the universe, right? But instead of moving forward, time flows in reverse.
So instead of being born, growing old, and dying,
Yeah.
you would start from death and live your life backwards.
Yeah. Funerals become births, so you get younger instead of older, and all those what-ifs become, oh, so that's why that happened.
That's tripping.
It's a real mind-bending thought experiment. But it really makes you confront this idea of free will. If we were to live our lives in reverse, knowing all the outcomes in advance, would we still make the same choices?
Right, like, would you still eat that entire pizza if you knew it was going to lead to a massive stomachache?
Exactly. It calls into question this notion that we're in control of our destinies, that we have this inherent freedom to choose our own paths. What if, in a sense, our paths are already laid out, just moving in a direction we don't normally perceive?
That's wild.
And get this, Eagleman, he doesn't just talk about the philosophical implications. He paints this very vivid picture of what life in reverse would actually be like. He writes, "In your daily life, broken vases reassemble, meltwater freezes into snowmen, broken hearts find love, rivers flow uphill, marriages rewrite rocky roads and eventually end in erotic dating." It's like he's taken every romantic comedy and flipped it on its head.
It's a really, really powerful way to illustrate such a complex concept.
Yeah.
By turning something so familiar, on its head, he forces us to re-examine our assumptions about time and choice and the nature of reality itself.
It's kind of like how sometimes you don't really appreciate a song until you hear it played backwards. And you discover this hidden message. It gives you a whole new perspective. Okay, this next one is a bit of a doozy. So in Blueprints Eagleman, he imagines this afterlife where, okay, get this, you can see the underlying code of your own existence.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Like someone gave you the ability to read the source code of your life.
Yeah.
Every decision, relationship, emotion, all laid out in numbers and algorithms.
Yeah. Talk about information overload, right?
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder, if you could actually see the blueprint of your life, would you even want to? Would it take away the mystery, the excitement of the unknown?
That's the question, right? That's what Eagleman's grappling with. He writes, "My goodness, you realize on your first afternoon here, this is totally deterministic. Is love simply an operation of the math?
No.
If you knew every choice you were going to make, every heartbreak you were going to endure,
right,
would it change how you lived your life?"
It's like knowing the ending of a movie before you watch it.
Right.
Does it ruin the experience or does it enhance it?
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
It speaks to this very human need for meaning making. We crave order, we crave understanding.
Totally.
But what if true meaning comes from embracing the chaos, the uncertainty, the not knowing?
It's like that old saying, the journey is the destination.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about knowing all the answers, but about asking the questions and seeing where they lead us. And that's what I love about this book. Eagleman, he isn't trying to give you a definitive answer about what happens after we die. He's inviting you to explore the possibilities, to question your own beliefs and assumptions.
Exactly. He's sparking a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation that, I think is so important to have, even if it's a little uncomfortable at times.
Totally. I mean, who hasn't laid awake at night wondering what it all means, And the truth is, nobody knows for sure, but Eagleman's book, it reminds us that it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to embrace the mystery, to find humor in the absurdity of it all.
And maybe, just maybe, that sense of wonder, that's what makes life and death so incredibly fascinating.
Thinking about all these different afterlives, it makes you realize that our perception of death is so limited. We tend to think of it as this ending, this finality. But what if it's not an ending? What if it's a transformation? What if, as Eagleman suggests in his other work, our consciousness, our individual essence doesn't just disappear, but merges back into some kind of collective consciousness.
A cosmic soup of shared experiences and memories.
Right.
It's a beautiful thought, isn't it?
It really is. And maybe that's the ultimate takeaway from this whole deep dive, that death, like life, is full of possibilities. And while we may never know for sure what awaits us on the other side, we can choose to approach the unknown with curiosity, with a sense of wonder, and maybe even a little bit of humor.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe that's the key to unlocking the secrets of the afterlife.
There you have it, our deep dive into the wonderfully weird, thought-provoking world of some 40 Tales from the Afterlives. If you're looking for a book that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about life, death, and everything in between, this is it. Trust us. Until next time, keep exploring those big questions, and remember, the afterlife might be a lot more interesting than you think.